Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Benedek and today I'm joined by my colleague Marina and we have some exciting things to show you, all things basemap. We'll start simple, then we'll show you some tips how you can enhance the basemaps that you're using, and then we'll move on and show you how you can design your own custom basemaps focusing on your needs. So let's get started with what basemaps are. As we all know, basemaps are there to provide contextual information for our maps without competing against or overshadowing the data that we want to show. We can access basemaps, or Esri offers a wide range of basemaps that you can access in ArcGIS Pro, or like in this example, in ArcGIS Online in the map viewer. And click on the basemap icon here, and you see a wide range of different basemaps that we can get started with. Now, if this list looks a bit different in your ArcGIS Online organization, do not worry, this is all configurable with a custom basemap gallery with administrative privileges. So let's have a look at some of these basemaps and just talk about how they are different. For example, the imagery basemap provides rich detail in the form of tiled imagery remotely sensed. As we zoom into an area of interest, you'll notice the imagery loading up at a different resolution. While this basemap provides a lot of context, it could be difficult to visualize some of the data that we want to show because our map can get very crowded very quickly. In this case, we recommend you to use something like the light gray canvas basemap. As you can see, the features here have been toned down a bit, allowing the data that we want to visualize to shine through. If we scroll to the bottom of this list, you'll notice a search icon. Clicking on this, you'll be able to search for different basemaps that might not be part of your basemap gallery in the Living Atlas. So we can just search for a couple and have a look at these. GB local basemaps, as you can see, have been published by Esri UK, and these provide basemaps with local names for Wales and Scotland in Welsh and Gaelic. So we can add one of these to our map. And once it loads, you'll notice that the labels here are in Welsh. So Holyhead here is labeled as Caergybi. Using basemaps like this could be beneficial if you have an audience based in areas like this, or you have customers who are working in Welsh. Another example of basemaps that you can access in the Living Atlas are the enhanced contrast basemap, which have been designed with accessibility in mind. So let's add one of these to our map. And you'll notice that the features, or the contrast between the features that you see on the basemap have been increased. These allow people with visual impairments, like color blindness, to view and navigate a map just like anyone else. These basemaps have been designed with accessibility in mind and meet web design guidelines to make them accessible. If we click on the back button and then the current basemap, we can access the back end of our basemaps. As you can see, this basemap has been split into two different parts. We have the base, which contains most of the details that you can see on the map. Then we have the reference as well, which usually consists of the labels. As you can see, we can hide those. This separation is to make sure that the labels are always visible and drawn on the top of our map. Now, if we just zoom in to Snowdonia National Park, you'll notice that this basemap does not come with a hill shade. Now, we all love those topographical features that can come with a basemap, which can provide a lot of detail, especially if you're not familiar with this area. We can add that layer back by clicking on the Add button and then selecting the Living Atlas and searching for hill shade. We can click on Add. Then you'll notice that this layer from the Living Atlas has been overlaid on the top of our basemap, covering up the lovely details. What we can do now is select the layer under base and then apply a blending mode called Multiply. As you can see, we have gotten rid of all the places that doesn't have any hills. We have taken the ones where there are, and we have blended it into our basemap. Another improvement that we can apply to this map is to enhance a bit the hill shades. We can use an effect called brightness and contrast. if we just toggle that on, we'll be able to play with the brightness and contrast setting, making those hill features a bit more visible. Using effects like this could be beneficial if you're doing a presentation on a projected screen and you're not quite sure how your maps will look like on that screen. Or if you're thinking about printing out maps, this could also help to make sure that those features are visible, even if the color doesn't look the same as on your maps. The last tip I will share with you today is how you can further enhance the accessibility of your base maps. If you just select the base layer here, and then under effects, we can apply a grayscale. This will create a monochrome map, and studies have shown that this is more accessible for people to navigate on. Now, these were some just very quick tips that you can apply to your base maps. I will now hand it over to Marina, who will show you how you can design your base maps from scratch.
Thank you very much, Benny. So I'm going to show you the vector tile style editor today. And as the name already suggests, it helps you to style and edit your vector tile layers. Whether this is a vector tile layer that you've uploaded from ArcGIS Pro and created yourself, or whether that's one of the base map in your base map gallery. I've chosen a light gray canvas base map, and most of the Esri base maps that we supply are vector tile layers at the moment, because they're smaller in storage size, they have better resolutions, and they're faster to load. But most importantly, you can edit those. So you can see that the map is kind of like this, like showing in like 4 different zoom levels, and this helps you to see the changes that we're going to take in a second. So we're going to start in the quick edit section, and if you're just looking for some inspiration and not quite sure where to start and just want some color suggestions, you can use the randomize button, and this will create a randomized color scheme for your base map. Alternatively, you can click on the custom color theme, and as Benny just said, monochrome maps are better for accessibility. And if I just select, for example, the monochrome one and select a gray color as my base, it will turn all of my map elements into gray, kind of like grayscale levels, and you can modify it further. We're still in the quick edits, and you can see a section of like grouped layers here. And by just like changing those, by changing the hex codes, or just searching for a different color you'd like to choose, you can give your map already like a different feel and look. Alternatively, you can use the Edit by Color section, and if I just click on the first color, you will see all of the layers that are having this color at the moment. This can be really useful if you have, for example, water bodies like this, and you want all of them to be in the same color, but there's one thing you have to watch out. For example, if you have like buildings and roads, sometimes they might have the same color, so it's always worth it checking the layers that you selected just to make sure you're not making edits by accident. You can style your maps obviously further, and this is what we're going to do is like doing this in the edit layer styles. So I'm going to zoom in to London again, so we see this here on a map. And you might notice when I hover over this, it says layer urban area. So I can now either go to my layer list and search for the specific layer, but that can be quite tedious. Alternatively, I can just click on it, and it will search the right layer for me. So that's my urban area layer that I'd like to modify. You have the power to turn on the visibility of your layers, so whether you want to show them or not. You can also change the visibility zoom range. So if you want certain features to only appear as you zoom in, you can modify this here as well. And as I've done earlier on, I'm just going to change the colors on mine. And then I'm going to turn down the opacity a little bit so it's a bit more transparent. So that's one way that you can edit like some of the layers. I'm going to do this again for like disputed boundaries. I'm just going to go to a different area where we're going to see this. Now I'm going to change it within a layer section here. So I'm going to expand my boundaries and go into the relevant layer. I'm just going to change the color of this so you can see it better. And zoom in a little bit. So you see a red line with white dotted lines on top of it. And if we look in the layer list, you might see that there are like 2 different layers. So when you work in ArcGIS Online, the layers will be like shown in the other way around, whereas in Vector Tile Style Editor, because it's JSON based, so it's based on code, the layers are kind of like flipped over. So the top layer that's shown on your screen will be at the bottom. In my case, I don't like to show us the white line feature, so I'm going to select it and go to the Actions tab, where I can just remove the layer. And by this, I'm left with a solid red line. The last bit I'd like to modify on this map is with the land layer. So I'm going to select this again. And you don't only have to use like colors. You can upload your custom PNG files, or you can just choose a pattern fill. So in my case, I'm just going to take those lines. And you can see I got like a line background. Kind of looks okay, but my land kind of like disappears, which is not very nice. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to duplicate this layer twice. I'm going to leave the bottom two layers as are, because if I have the same layer twice, it will just basically make it stronger and more pronounced, so I'm kind of like not losing the details of my stripes. And at the top layer, which is basically at the bottom, because we need to think vice versa, I'm going to take off the pattern fill and go back to a kind of like white filling. So you can see we still have this kind of like stripy effect on the map, and with like the background so we can actually see the outlines of the countries. So that's one way how you can use vector tile style editor. But you can take it further and also modify the reference layer. So this is the light gray canvas reference layer, and it's a map just of the labels. And again, you can just change it in a quick edit by modifying the hex codes. For example, water bodies should usually have like a blue label, and that's done really quickly in here. Alternatively, what you can do here as well is you can also change the language settings. Currently, 40 languages are supported. So if you have maps for different countries, you can change it to the native language of another country. And you can also change like the fonts. So whether you want to go like for something really creative, or whether you want something that's like really well visible on like print media, you have the control over this and can change it accordingly. The last bit I'd like to show you is that you can also edit the JSON code behind this. So I'm going to click onto London, and we're going to look at the JSON. So when I selected the feature and then open a JSON file, it will bring me to the exact line of code in the JSON file. And what I want to do now is basically I want to isolate the label London and make it into a different color so it's a bit more outstanding and we can see it right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 copies of the layer and modify the JSON in them. So currently, we're looking at this section here. It's showing you all of the labels. So now I've prepared like 2 layers already where I've kind of like changed it. So let's have a look at the JSON first, and then I'm going to turn on the layers to see the effects. So that's a modified version now. The first part of the code remained exactly the same. I just added a little all at the start, so it's kind of like reading all the sections that I've pasted in. And that's the vital part. So in that layer that I'm going to turn on in a second, it's basically saying with the exclamation mark equal sign that we're going to exclude London from the label display. So this will disappear on the map. So if I turn on that layer and turn on the original one, you will see that London disappears on the map. Gone it is. But obviously, we want to bring it back in a different color. So I've duplicated the layer again, and this time I modified the JSON again. The only thing I've changed now is that instead of an exclamation mark equal sign, we have an equal equal. So now this layer is literally just showing the label for London. And if I turn that back on and you watch the map closely, the label should appear in bright red. And there it is again. So you can see that you have like loads of power in Vector Tile Style Editor to modify your base maps and really customize them. And just to give you a full feel what we've just done, I've created an instant app so you can have a look. So we started with a really gray base map with not a lot of detail. And if I move my handle across, you can see all of the changes. So I've changed the font of it. We highlighted the area that we're in. I created another land layer to kind of create this drop shadow effect, which is also done in Vector Tile Style Editor. And when we zoom in, we can see all of the color changes I've taken. And with that, I'd like to hand back over to Benny, who's going to show you how to create a vector tile layer in ArcGIS Pro.
Thank you, Marina, for that insightful overview of the vector tile style editor. So what if we would like to add our own data set to our base maps? We can do this in ArcGIS Pro. We have a project open looking at the paved areas in Exeter city center. This dataset is from the Ordnance Survey's National Geographic dataset. And for those of you, if you're not familiar with this, this is the OS's authoritative geographic data store for Great Britain. As you can see in the right-hand corner, I'm logged in with my named user, and I have the ArcGIS Online portal set as an active portal. So what we want to do at this stage is we want to take this layer and publish it as a vector tile. We can do this by selecting the layer in the Contents pane, clicking on Sharing, choosing Share as a web layer. This will open a tool that publishes the data into our active portal. At this stage, we can add an sensible name, so in this case, Exeter Pavement, and optionally, we can add a summary and a tag. But most importantly, we can select the layer type that we want to publish it in as. So we can select vector tiles, and then if we click Publish and run the tool, we'll publish the data into our active portal. So I have the item details page of the published layer. As you can see, this is indeed a tile layer. We can check that here as well. And from here, we can open this in the vector tile style editor and style it just like Marina has shown it to us. Or optionally, we can also download the JSON behind the tile layer and paste it into the source of an Esri basemap, creating a multiple source basemap. Now let's bring all the three elements that we have designed into one place. So I have an open project here. We can just click on basemap, current basemap, and then we can add the three separate layers one by one. So we can add the pavement layer that I have just published from ArcGIS Pro, the reference layer that was prepared by Marina, and the base layer. If we go back, you'll see that all of the layers have been added under base. Now we can take a bit of time to tidy this up. First, we can get rid of the word topographic map basemap because we no longer need it. Then we can drag the reference layer under references to make sure that those labels are always drawn on the top of our basemap. Then we can reorder some of these as well, so we can drag the pavement to the top and the blur hillshade in the middle. We'll need to apply the same blending mode to the hillshade that we have done previously, so I will just apply the multiply effect. And with that, our basemap is ready for mapping. If we just zoom into our area of interest, you'll notice the different features loading up, and we have our paved areas visualized as well. So before we finish this presentation, we thought that we would show you a couple of examples that we have prepared for you. Here you can see the default word street basemap. If I just drag the slider, you'll see that we have played a bit with the colors, and we have also changed the labels to German. As we zoom in, you'll see that those much needed road features are added back to our map, but as we zoom out, those features can be hidden, allowing our data set to be visualized at a nationwide scale. We have done something similar with the light gray canvas map as well. So if I just drag the slider, you'll notice that we have changed the colors of the water bodies. And as we zoom in, you can see the different features being visualized in different colors. So with that, we have come to the end of our presentation, and that we hope that we have been able to show you something new and something interesting, and we've been able to inspire you to create not only stylish but practical basemaps for your future projects. Thank you very much.